This episode of This Agile Life has been brought to you by BrilliantAgile.com, providing Agile and Scrum training, consultancy, and personnel.
BrilliantAgile.com. Done right, it's brilliant.
Released on Sunday, April 12, 2015, This Agile Life, Episode 80, Peanut Butter and Banana Sandwiches.
The software industry transforms more and more every day. Agile methods are quickly replacing traditional ones. The question is, are you agile enough? This podcast is devoted to agile and lean software development. Time to welcome your agile coaches on This Agile Life.
Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to This Agile Life, a podcast about what it's like to be agile in the real world. We've got a great show today that we're going to talk about. It's got lots of excitement and a few twists thrown in there, and most importantly, I've got two great people joining me for This Agile Life. Who's out there in Agile world tonight?
Oh, speaking of twists, this is Lee. I'm here and ready to get started on whatever these amazing topics are that Jason is promising.
Yeah, so Lee's here, and of course, as Lee mentioned, my name's Jason Tice. I'm here, and I think there's one other person with us tonight. Lee, who is it?
Is it the King? Oh, well, thank you very much. I was going to bring Amos, but I decided to show up myself instead.
I'm not even going to be able to handle this. This is going to be a good night. I should have had more alcohol. So this is Amos, and I'm here. I'm not actually here for the discussion. I'm here because I heard that there might be tornadoes up by where you guys live, and I just wanted to be on the video watching it when it happens, that Tice disappears.
Yes, so, and then I said if I do disappear and I survive, I'm going to reenact the musical Wicked and sing Defying Gravity. So that will be good. So just think about it. If you're listening...
if you get sucked up, I'm going to go, ding dong, the wicked witch, a witch.
So here's the funny thing, though, we're doing is, let me tell you, if you listen to This Agile Life, we kind of have some patterns. And if you're on an Agile team, I bet you have some patterns too, right? What we just did, I think we've never done before. We just kind of started, and we're having a little bit of fun here, which, ask yourself, when was the last time you did that with your team? So maybe if you're the Scrum Master and you kind of start to stand up every day the same way, do something different the first time you have a stand up after you hear this, and maybe be like Lee. And Lee used to live in Memphis, so that's not fair. Because your Elvis is way too good. So maybe, I don't know, have everyone in your stand up talk like Elvis for a day. That could be really funny. So, well, as we're talking tonight, we also have another experiment going on, which we thought we'd let you know about right now. Although by the time you hear this episode, it'll be a little too late. So Amos went to Twitter, and since we asked Amos to think about a topic for us to talk about this week, and of course, Amos, in typical fashion, has waited until the last irresponsible moment, and so he's asking you to give us help on Twitter. Okay,
no.
Go.
No. I had a topic, and one of our esteemed hosts said, "Oh, please don't do that without me." And then we were going to go ahead with it anyway, but we decided that we all agree on the topic, so it'll be really boring.
Okay, but again, real life. I'm sorry if you're listening to us out there, and Lee and Amos, have we ever seen this in real life on an Agile team? Hey, I really like working on that part of the code base, and that's my part of the code. And so even if that's the next story in your ready queue, you skip that one because
No.
What? You haven't ever seen this, Amos?
I've seen it, and it's BS.
Well, yeah. So again,
look at this. You have to straighten me out. I didn't even cuss.
Well, we're trying to keep it up again in real life. So that's don't do that. But
in real life, Amos cusses a lot.
Only in work life.
So are we following the whole team approach here, Amos?
No, because we are pigeonholing and saying we're not going to do this until this person's around, and that we aren't able to handle it without them.
I think there's a different version of that where, I really like working on this particular part of the code, so I'm going to grab that story quickly before anybody else grabs it. because I want it.
I'm gonna half-ass my current job so I can get to the next one that I enjoy.
Or again, if you're listening, and by now you're probably wondering what on earth is this mysterious topic. So we'll share it to be transparent, and that is it's a debate we've had here on This Agile Life before. It's really about how much testing is enough. Is that a good way to summarize it? Or if you're doing test-driven development, what parts of your code do you not test? Or do you have like rules or classes of service about I test this, but I don't test this, or blah, blah, blah. And what's interesting about that and why I think we've at least tentatively decided to forego this is Lee, Amos, and myself all agree on this topic that we think you should probably pretty much test, I want to say pretty much everything all the time.
So I'm going to avoid cussing here, but there's a guy, and I'm losing his name right now, but he says Taft, T-A-F-T. Test all the effing time.
Well, and again, Amos, the reason why I support that is I've lived in way too many spaces where people do the spike or they do the quick thing, and next thing you know, the business says, "Hey, I want that in production tomorrow." And
but what about time to market? We don't have time to write those tests.
Yeah,
we've got to have this done by the end of next week.
Yeah, so you should work in a way that if the business says release it now, you're able to release it now, and you're not going to be up all night. So the reason, but where I was going with this is to say that we're not a good group to discuss this because we all kind of think the same thing. And if teams do that and they choose to all work and they've got the mindset, it can get them kind of focused on tunnel vision where they don't necessarily crosstalk enough, right?
Lee had a little difference.
So
I had a little difference.
Down to the developer level.
Do you actually want us to bring this up, or are we avoiding the topic?
We've already brought it up. Let's hear it, Lee.
Okay, so you hear what Jason or what Amos is trying to do, right, Jason? He is trying to make us go into this topic whether we like it or not.
Who's the product owner here? Oh, we don't have one.
Well, we're still waiting for someone to come on from Twitter with a topic for us.
Well, we haven't even announced that we were doing that yet. So that was the other long.
I tell you what, I will play devil's advocate here. Ooh. I am going to play the part of someone who doesn't think you should test your stuff all the time. Because I think this is an argument you will get if you are ever out there trying to convince a group to try to do TDD on everything. So here's some of the excuses I hear. You don't need to test everything. I mean, this is simple code. There's nothing that could possibly go wrong. It's just a little for loop. And why do I need to test this? This can't break.
How many times have you had to fix that? Those kind of things that are easy and can't break.
I don't know. On this, this story, the last couple of weeks, nothing that I can remember.
Oh, I don't even know how to respond to that one. I just want
exactly. See, see, I win.
But win. It's interesting, Lee, because as I'm listening to you say that, I know where you're going with that. I hear what Amos is saying, and I have a completely different thought in my mind. The value that I see from writing tests for nearly everything, and when I say nearly everything, things that are where there's no value for writing tests, like getters and setters and stuff, which you said before, we shouldn't. There's no value there. So guess what? You run your code coverage and you see those aren't covered. Not a big deal. But it's the process, and it's all the learning that occurs and the feedback loops that are triggered by writing the test. It's like, hey, I got this simple thing, this for loop, but because it's buried 8 lines deep in this method that does 8 other things instead of doing one thing.
Your method is 8 lines long?
No, it's got 8 lines.
Different topic.
It's got 8 lines. Then it has a for loop that spits something out, and then it does 8 more lines, and then it finally returns something in this big custom object that's used for 8,000 things instead of just one thing.
How many case statements do you have in that method? No, never mind. Sorry.
Oh, come on. It's out there. So thank you. Hi. Yes, I get to talk like an engineer tonight, which is fun.
But that's the problem, right?
Well, so I'm saying is
if you write that test first, you're probably not going to write it that way, especially after practice. And that's the other thing is whenever you've done this and you're actually committed to it, after a little while, it becomes second nature. And that extra time is not really a whole lot of extra. And I found that even over the course of a week, that people say, we're not going to write any tests. Well, they start stepping on each other and tearing up people's code, and they don't realize it because the test coverage isn't there.
Well,
By the end of the week, you still can't release that thing that you had to not test in order to release because it's broken, or you do release it, and then you're like, well, we got to fix bugs now.
So I forgot when Amos and I are on, I got to tell my stories faster because I didn't even get to the point yet, which is...
I didn't know you could talk faster.
Well, maybe I have to talk and use less words. I'll try to do that. You guys can give us feedback on Twitter about that. Well, where I was going is, so I want to test the for loop that's in the middle of this beautiful method I've just described to Amos that set him off. And it's hard to do. I can't test it. Well, that's a feedback loop that would say, hey, I need to refactor my code to extract that method out. And so in that case, it's the process of saying, I'm going to write a test that's going to give me this nice loosely coupled code that's easier to maintain over time. And because of that, that process is what I want to keep going. And if you don't write the test, that process falls apart, and we end up with beautifully architected methods and classes like I just described. Right, Amos?
Well, and it falls apart very quickly. It doesn't take very long. You can stop writing tests. If your team is very dedicated to TD, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to tell people to do this. Take like 2 or 3 days and don't write tests, or write them after and see what happens. Because you watch it fall apart. It's crazy.
Okay. So Amos, I
got a team to do it once. Okay, it was really bad.
I like where you're going with that, but I want to challenge you because something we've been talking about a lot lately is experiments. So can you tell us more about the hypothesis? When you say it's all going to fall apart, what does that mean? And so, because I would love some people to take you up on what you're saying right now, go try this experiment and then let us know what happened. And I want you to tell them what they should be looking for.
What are the metrics? What are the metrics?
No, we don't need to get into that. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, Amos, be more specific.
We can look at metrics. So count the number of issues that you have with those pieces of code over the next couple weeks, because sometimes you're not going to notice them right away. You might notice them later. Count times that people step on each other. Make sure that you're like the whole team is doing this and you're all working on different pieces, or even the same pieces, even more exciting. And then look at how many branches that you have in your code, how many, like your cyclomatic complexity, and how large your methods and your objects are if you're doing object oriented. And it's kind of crazy to watch this happen.
Also throw in how many times did you feel like you weren't confident enough to go in and refactor a piece of code or add something new to a piece of code because you didn't know whether you were going to break it or not?
And so for those that like metrics, those are as described indicators. Most of those actually have names. Like what you described, Amos, the number of bugs. I mean, most people call that defect density. So like what parts of the code generate more defects? And can you find a pattern there? I liked your idea about merge conflicts because that has to do with, the average size of a story. If people are doing...
Oh, no. That's not what I meant. I meant like your stuff, like you break something by changing code that you didn't expect.
Okay, so like a whack-a-mole problem. But the other one that I've been working with lately is this idea of merge conflicts. And if a team is constantly having merge conflicts, look at the size of their stories and the cycle time to complete them. And I bet there's a correlation there where they're probably working in larger work units. And as you know, I know amongst the three of us, we typically recommend smaller work units are better. Typically, I'd say at the, Amos, you're like, what, an hour or something? But, a day, 2 days is pretty good. But if a story takes a week, that might be a bit too large.
I would say, so I'm not quite as radical as Amos is, but I would still put it at anything over a day is too long.
Yeah. Well, and again, if you've never tried this, the one of the trending words this year that when we, I guess, having reviewed submissions for the Agile conference in DC in August 2015, the word that I know I saw a lot was predictability. So that's the word everyone's talking about now. And the number one way to get predictability is to have smaller work units because you reduce the variability in those work units. So smaller is better. Complexity was good, which that's a simple one. You get a tool that measures that, point it at your code base and say, spit out the data and then look at it and decide what to do.
Churn. Churn can be another good one.
Churn meaning number of lines changed per commit, or
no, like the files themselves. Like how many times is this file changed? How many times is that file changed?
Yeah.
So the churn in the new code that you wrote.
Yeah, that's something. It's funny. I don't know if we have time to find it for a pick, but people are like making all these cool animated videos now of like what your code base looks like over time, like as an animated film. It like where you see one change of picks. I mean, they're really neat. So we'll try to find some of those for a future episode. Put that in our picks. And the last one, Lee, I liked how Lee had the soft metric, the ones that I talk a lot about, to say that, what does it feel like, and do you feel confident changing this? So I guess what I wanted to emphasize those is to say that these are all things you can measure. And so you can go do Amos's experiment here in a scientific way and measure these things and say, hey, we're not testing. And guess what? We've seen that our defect density has not changed.
It's awesome.
Or it's probably pretty high. So
you're better than most people I know.
Yeah, so anyway, so the funniest thing, and now we'll get back to the whole story, we've kind of been delaying because we were trying to do a little bit of crowdsourcing for this episode, where Amos did post a question on Twitter if anyone had a question for us to talk about in real time. And Amos, if we hadn't received any responses?
No, nobody likes me.
No one likes us, okay. Or your internet's down and it's just not going out anywhere, so...
Well, his 12 followers are in other places.
Hey.
No, I think that's... Oh, sorry, that was me. I've got 12 followers.
I'm just not very good with Twitter. So, well, let me... So is there... is there anything else we can say about this topic of how much testing? Knowing that I think, just to be transparent... people who on This Agile Life who sometimes think a little differently about this. I think Craig thinks a little bit differently, right, Amos? So he'll be someone I think that we'll have on a future episode that will probably might have some questions about the things we're saying here, because the three of us are recommending that there's many values to testing aside from just the feedback that the software does what it's supposed to do. Really, it's a great way to promote good architecture practice and to promote good understanding amongst the team as to, are we maintaining clean code?
And just in case we don't get to bring this up with Craig at a future episode, because we have lots of topics that we always want to talk about, is jump on our community on it's on Google Plus and talk about it there and bring it up. Craig will jump in, I'm sure. He'll take any chance that he can to yell at me.
So Lee, can Elvis give us some advice about like a takeaway from this conversation?
Gee, I hadn't really thought about it too much. I've kind of been eating my peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Do you guys have a grill for that, by the way? Anyway, I think you should test your code. And maybe get a hound dog. A hound dog helps. A team mascot. Thank you.
Actually,
thank you.
Team
thank you very
mascot.
much.
Interesting.
Okay, so, hey, if you're in the conference space out there, we're going to get Lee out on the conference circuit talking about something. And Lee's going to talk about it like Elvis. So we got, for those that aren't listening to This Agile Life frequently, we got occasionally Nate shows up and does his sports announcer voice. And now we've got Elvis showing up here. So who's going to be, and I don't know, and people tell me I do Kermit the Frog and stuff because I have kids. So,
Kermit the Frog here.
So Amos, what's next? So we just finished that story. We've shipped it off. We've demoed it to our customer. Our users love it. We're going to wait for their feedback. What do we do next?
I don't know. I think you cut off Lee right there. He started to say something, and then you said, "What's next?"
Oh my! It must be a Wednesday.
Oh, well, now we got Winnie the Pooh here tonight. Okay, so here's a great one for you.
I can't even function right now.
So again, you don't need to be a Scrum Master to do this, okay? It's like, it's not a bad idea to have something funny in your toolbox. And so literally, this would be to me a fun activity to do in a team, a retro, or just any type of a team session. Take 5 minutes, challenge everyone to say, hey, what's something that you do that's funny. Obviously, Lee can do Elvis. Lee can do Winnie the Pooh. I'm sure he's going to whip another one out here. But we're cracking up here. We're having a good time. So
Hey there, boo-boo.
this is something, and I guess I share this. We got a neat thing going on. As you guys probably know, this Agile Life will be at the Agile Games Conference in Boston coming up in May 2015. Amos is really excited. For those that really, if you want the backstory,
This year, I won't be in a van down by the ocean living on government cheese.
So, but here's a funny one. So, and obviously John's going to tag along too, and so I think John, Amos, and Jason are going to all travel together, and we're probably going to like pull an all-nighter podcast type thing. Something crazy will go down, which you guys will get to be part of. But where I was going with that is we got a neat thing going on there. We're going to have like an improv track where we've got a deep dive from a group called the Theater of the Oppressed. They do collaborative work. And we've also got another guy from St. Louis who actually we should have on the podcast sometime. His name's Wade Stallman. I think he's a Scrum Master, and he's going to do a workshop on how to spice up your meetings with improv games. And so we've got actually like a whole day if you're into improv. And the reason I'm just bringing this up is I hope you're feeling, if you're listening to us, some of the value that kind of sometimes having a little bit of fun. It provides it gets people engaged because we're all laughing here, and I like to say when you're laughing, guess what? You're thinking about something, which is good. So check out Agile Games. This Agile Life will be there, or guess what? Do something funny at work. It won't kill you, and it will probably get people engaged, and you'll do better work.
I have no idea why, but when you said when you're laughing, you're thinking, all I could think of was Bob Ross. And I don't even think that's a Bob Ross thing that he would say, but all I could picture was Bob Ross.
Is that, you mean like Happy Little Trees, Bob Ross?
Yes. Happy little mistakes.
Okay, so Amos, now that we've all thought, and you're obviously laughing over there, so we know you're thinking about something, can you tell us what that is? We'll go on to a new topic.
Actually, I wrote down on this card today that I actually just wanted to talk to you about. The last episode, you brought up this idea of the Agile buffet game, where people would describe Agile practices as food.
Okay,
like you would describe food, and I thought, holy crap! I think Tice had a good idea.
Oh, did you just say that, Amos?
Well,
shh, don't tell anybody. Can we edit that out?
No. So, do you want to play that game now? Because we are going to play that game at the Agile Open Space in St. Louis. Is coming up in April 2015. So you'll hear this episode just before that event occurs if you want to join us. But that's something that I'm going to bring into the open space and see what the open space does with it, if the open space even cares about it. Open space, people get to decide what to do. So guess what? If everyone thinks it's a bad idea, they can all say, forget that. If they want to invest some time, they can do it. But Amos, maybe give us your idea to get it started.
Well, I would like you, Tice, to actually describe, how about, since we've been talking about TDD, you describe to me TDD as a food.
Oh, so this is called Put Me on the Spot. Okay.
I could ask Lee too.
Well, I think we should both do this. So I
think Lee needs to do it as Elvis though. His creamy peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I don't do good Elvis, but I tried.
TDD as food. So
we also have a topic that came in, but you got to do this first.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is getting my kids to eat their vegetables, right? So you keep trying different ways to fix the vegetables, and you test out little things, right? I'm not sure if this is even going to apply. This is just what came to mind when you're talking about TDD and food, is testing different ways of getting my kids to eat their vegetables.
That makes me think of Papa.
And so the first
little bite size.
Okay, so the other one. So, Amos, before I'm going to attempt to answer, this is where I'll share. This is the part of the game that when we play this at the open space, we're going to do some silent reflection so we don't have to think on the spot, and you'll be able to do that individually. which I think if we did that right now and just was silent on the podcast for 5 minutes, it would be very bored and you guys would all turn us off. So
well, we could always cut that 5 minutes out.
But no, we don't want to do that. So
post-production is fun.
And of course, at the open space, we're going to play amazing music that will just inspire you to think.
I'll bring my ukulele.
Oh, wonderful. So, but I have an idea. I'm thinking of something like, I'm just thinking out loud. What about the metaphor of like trying to eat with chopsticks? You know, because you kind of got to figure it out. And again, I'm thinking of it's an iterative process to learn how to do it. And, you know, you kind of invariably, like as we were describing, people getting started with TDD, if you've ever eaten with chopsticks, it's like, oh, you kind of are bad at it. It's like you try to pick up the rice ball and it falls off your chopsticks and all kinds of bad stuff happens. But if you practice it, it gets better to where you can be pretty good at it. And I don't know. To me, that sounds more like the learning of TDD. That's not the actual engineering practice. So I got to think. Amos, I'm going to think about that. Can I get back to you?
Yeah,
how about
you
this
can
one?
Get back to me.
Okay.
Imagine a little kid trying to learn how to use a fork, right? I mean, a little kid, and they've just been picking stuff up with their hands, right? So they keep trying, and they're going to try little things, and you keep forcing them to learn how to eat with a fork. But if they don't, they're just going to, if it gets frustrating, they go right back to using their hands, and just crap goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Code goes everywhere.
Yeah, you know, but here's what I like. Here's what I like about this chopstick thing. I like that, Lee. So, Lee, you need to come to Open Space too, and we can both collaborate on this together. Because as I'm visualizing this chopstick and thinking back to my lunch that I ate at Payway today, so I actually was using chopsticks. It's that idea of saying something. If you're doing it right, it should be easy. So it's that feedback cycle that I was talking about. So once you learn how to, I should be able to take anything that's on my beautiful plate of the Payway hot and spicy stuff with whatever I got mixed in it and pick it up and eat it down there real quick. And if it's hard to do that, that might be a feedback. That's a feedback loop that maybe I didn't order the right thing. Maybe they messed my order up, or maybe I just need to learn how to get better at eating my food. So I don't know.
Otherwise, you're going to make a mess.
So I really expected whenever you said to describe it, like you guys talked about how to eat it and things like that, and I expected you to say like how it tastes. So I was thinking that it was a very sophisticated and spicy and really like just wonderful flavor. Yet the better and more well done it is, the more simplified it is. It's simple yet high quality. And that's what I was thinking of, like flavors. And you guys are talking about how to eat. That's very interesting.
But here's the thing: I think we've proven out when we had the idea on the prior episode where we talked about the Agile buffet. I thought it was an idea that I didn't know if it would have any legs. The idea of having a game about that, where we would build this buffet, is. It's stimulating an interesting conversation about what it means to us. So again, if we're a team and we're doing a team inception, we're coming together to start working, we could use this type of an activity to establish our working agreements about how we're going to do TDD or how we're going to work together. And again, this conversation is going to get us on the same page because we need to be on the same page to be a good team, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Amos just told me we have a topic. I'm not exactly clear.
So we actually had someone respond on Twitter. It's one of our listeners, Mark Catterbert. And then I asked him if he wanted to be on the show in order to bring this topic up. And he said, sure. So I think we need to add him into Skype.
Okay, so.
And we'll call him in. This is the first ever. Calling someone in the middle of the show.
Amos, can you do that on your end, or do you want me to do it?
I think you have to do it since you started the call.
Okay.
I don't know how to add somebody. I'm not good at this.
I know how to
add people.
I know how to.
Wait.
I'm working on it. Okay, so now we can measure how long this takes. So this is like you've decided to crowdsource your team as you're building your product, and so how can we add value now while we're waiting?
Well, so I've heard of this kind of thing before, right? Valve, they make video games, but everybody gets to work on whatever they want to work on during the day, right? So all we did was crowdsource out an idea of a topic, and then we said, who wants to join us?
Okay, we got a Mark. So let's see here. I feel like I'm the receptionist with the mostest here. This Mark Ketterberg. Here we go.
You're a fantastic receptionist. I would hire you.
Oh, wonderful. So, wow, this is like real. Amos, this reminds me. You were on radio. I was on radio. This is like radio where we're punching people in here. So, hey, Mark, welcome to This Agile Life. How you doing tonight?
Good. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Glad to be on the show.
Awesome. You know, we got to do this live. So, anyways, well, so Mark, Amos, and I'm not watching the Twitter feed right now. So Amos has assured us you have a fiery topic as I'm talking about my fantastic lunch from Payway today.
That's almost as exciting. So I don't know about fantastic, but we've been having some fun issues at work. We're on a relatively large team that's kind of arbitrarily divided into two teams, despite working on the same code base and, all doing the same thing. But
topic number 2.
Right. The main question is really, how do you work from a group of about like 3 to 4 people that really want to do the right thing and are kind of making conscious, good decisions amongst a pool of closer to 20 or 25 people that want to get the job done as quickly as possible and aren't willing to make any kind of short-term sacrifices?
Ooh, okay. So now the last thing, do you want to hang around to discuss this with us?
He has to hang around.
Well, he can, or he could. Well, or he could go bye-bye and he could hear what comes out the other end.
No, that's not his option.
We need
or
to
I'm
ask.
not helping him
We need to
tomorrow.
ask some questions here. We need
Sure,
to ask
yeah.
some questions.
Whoa!
So
the
for
doctors are in
example-
tonight. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Remember that show Loveline?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that Lee is the doctor from that show, and I can be the other guy that's just rude and crude.
Adam Carolla, in other words, if you didn't watch.
Yeah.
that show.
Oh, that's his name. I couldn't remember.
Okay. Hey, we can see. There's Mr. Mark. He's turned on this guy. Welcome,
Mark.
world. Hi, Mark. So, okay. So talk.
So here's my first question. My first question is the people that don't want to produce quality, as for lack of a better way to put it, why is it that they don't produce? Do they feel like that they are being pressured to deliver in an unseemly, untimely sort of way, unfair sort of way? Are they just plain lazy?
So I think it's probably closer to the former. I don't know if it's really a pressure that's actually being pushed on them, or if it's kind of they've been in big business forever and they assume that the pressure will be coming. I've never personally felt any pressure, but I might just be immune to it at this point from pushing back so much.
Okay. So if you can somehow change that attitude, that's our first step, right? So, and this may take management support, right? So management support has to come in and say, you know what? We're going to take an entire day and you're not going to get crap done, but we're going to do some other activities that are going to be useful and build stuff. But the whole point is that get them away from the freaking code. Make them understand that, there's more important things. That there's a bigger picture here than just day-to-day churning out the code.
Do we need Tice to come down and do a Lego day?
That might be good. I don't know. The problem with, I don't know. There's a lot of problems, as all workplaces have. One of the phrases I've heard is, well, the team next door is getting more points done than us. We need to bump up those numbers, right? And that was from one of the managers. So it's kind of like, there's a broader systemic problem here as well.
Yeah, that's a management issue. The very fact that you've got numbers and points and that you could actually try to compare two teams against each other, that alone is a problem.
Well, okay, but let's stop.
Winning.
Okay, stop right there. Stop. Because Lee, what that is, and Mark, what that is if you've got managers poking around, that actually is a data point to say that there's something that leadership needs to provide autonomy to the teams to self-manage that's not being done.
Are there estimation meetings?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They go on for a good hour. It's solid.
So can you just quadruple all of your estimates and then you can outpace the other team?
That's what I proposed, actually.
No.
Last-
Guys. That's why.
Let Jason finish. I think he was onto something there.
What I was saying
Sorry.
is, someone from your team needs to have a conversation with leadership to say, what information do you need to know about what we're doing to allow them to manage risk? And what I find more often than not is most teams have never had that conversation, or they've had that conversation with the last manager, then the manager changed, and whatever type of a system or a dashboard they put in place for that other manager is not effective to the new manager. And so then the manager starts poking around, and he goes and reads a blog on the Scrum Alliance that talks about velocity and says, ooh, tell me all about your velocity. And then he does all the stuff that John talks about, John Sextro, where he says, ooh, I should be able to normalize velocity, when he probably doesn't understand what velocity is, that it's a localized metric for each team, and you can't do that. So you need to have a conversation. And I want to say, Mark, you might have to help your leadership learn that there are ways to measure Agile and have a conversation. And once you hear what they need, that's a challenge for your team to put something in place that effectively empowers you guys to be self-managing. Okay,
Yeah,
Amos is raising his hand. So
this is not a plant, but Mark has actually had this conversation with me before. And I said, you remember like on cartoons where you start out with just a snowflake and it starts rolling down a hill and picking up other things. Mark's got 3 or 4 people. So if you can start building from that core, and you guys are doing high quality work and other people are seeing that high quality work, hopefully one of them wants to be a snowflake that's part of your big snowball. And when you get big enough, even Wile E. Coyote can't stop you.
So Amos, are you suggesting that the cheetahs in the group pick off the wildebeests that are a little weaker, and one at a time identify the ones that are close to falling to the dark side, and get them first?
To the good side, but yeah.
Okay.
well,
You absorb their energy into your own, is what I heard him say.
Yeah, like if you cut their head off, then you get to get all of their life experiences.
But then you end up with only one left.
So going
That's
back
all right,
to
as long
Tyson's
as he
comment.
knows everything that everybody else did.
So going back to Tyson's comment, I think it's really good. And approaching management's one thing. It's really tough to have like honest, open team discussions when management is so tightly integrated, right? Like they're in the room with us, and you're on a 30-person team, so it's not like you can have conversations external to the management before you can even go to that point.
Well, but that's a problem right there. Number one, I was curious how big the team was. 30 sounds scary because that's a program. I would not recommend anyone try a team with 30 people, because you're going to spend too much time synchronizing across all the people. Your stand-up, well, even if everyone is correct in what they share in stand-up, it's still going to take an hour. You should talk about doing like feature teams where people divide up into small groups. They go work on some features and they mix it up every so often, because you'll get better throughput.
Okay. I was about ready to stop you until you said they mix it up.
They mix it up.
Okay.
If you watch our video, we're even doing the crazy mouth thing. So trust me, I've been in a lot of environments where guess what? They mix it up once, and then you come back a year later and nothing's changed. And guess what? Leadership says, hey, they can mix it up. The people choose not to. And what's funny, I'll share a real story. When I do workshops, we encourage people to hey, guess what? For the afternoon, why don't you sit somewhere else? A lot of people don't want to move around. So we like to sit down. So, move it all around, shake it up. But so you'll find that it will be easier to start to achieve consensus if you can get people communicating and working in smaller groups. Because it's easier to have a conversation where, hey, Lee, why don't you agree with me? Or why don't you care about this? And it's easier to have that conversation when it's like 1-on-5 versus when it's like 1-on-26 or something. It just works better. So see if you can rearrange how you're working to get into feature teams so you can start having smaller discussions, and then use that to grow momentum to start to work together and have a better practice on quality.
Like a snowball. I like it.
Well, no, I think that's more like the avalanche.
Sure.
So you said, Tice, about rearranging or getting people to sit in different spots. And that reminded me of a team that I had that was starting to get a little stagnant. and maybe this is where you are, Mark. Like you've got that set of people who are trying to get better, and nobody else is. But maybe they were at one point, or they think they still are, and they're just getting a little comfortable where they are. So what I did on one team was I went in about 30 or 40 minutes before anybody else showed up, and I actually rearranged all the desks.
They love that.
And it caused people to sit by new people.
Sure.
And
my wife, who's a teacher, does that all the time.
Yeah, and they do that for a reason, right? It shakes things up a little bit and gets people to think differently. And maybe you could do that, and then while it's all shaken up, you can suggest some things. That would be an interesting thing.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if you're allowed to do that there or not. But.
Oh, I mean, the worst they can do is fire me. So.
Well, the other question I want to ask you, Mark, is I want to probe a little bit deeper on, you said that management or leadership is in the room, and by the fact that they're there, the environment is not safe. And so people don't feel as though they can talk about things. And I'd like you to, if you're able to do so, and you can pass if you want to, how does that, tell us about that? Because that sounds like an unhealthy environment.
Sure. So I would say that around like 80% of the time, it's actually fantastic, right? Like they actually are aware of things that are going on. You don't get the like awkward, well, why is this taking so long question, right? Like that question doesn't happen all that often, which is much better than other places where management's far removed. But it's the times during like retros and things like that where the management's actually running the retros that gets very uncomfortable, right? And I can see the expressions in your faces right now. And yeah, it's not a great scenario. And we recently actually just changed that. So they're still in the room for retros, but they're no longer up at the board running it. So I think that's been a big improvement. And there was much more conversation this time. So I think we're heading in the right direction as far as that goes. But it's a long road, I think.
Let
do
me
you mind throwing yourself under the bus?
What's that?
Can you put something up for the retro that other people feel they can't approach in front of management, or do you not want to do that either?
Oh, so the comment I actually put up last time, which kicked off the new person talking, was can we get someone that doesn't decide people's paychecks running the retro? And that kickstarted this and got somebody else up there. But.
Well, it just sounds like the integrity of your retro is suspect. I mean, I would say that, and again, we have listeners out there probably saying that, oh my gosh, my manager runs my retro. Since, to use John's favorite quote, I've used this quote, but I can assert my dominance over the self-managing team. Rawr. So I know that's out there.
Don't see anything wrong in here, because Tice will burn you for the next 10 years.
No, I just thought that was funny when John said that. But real life, again, the retro has to be safe. A way to make the retro safe, even if the manager is facilitating it, is do things that promote self-management. So, get the box out, the box of joy, it's technically called Pandora's box, but, I call it the fun box, where, secret submission, put the ideas in there, and then let the manager go up and read that. And the key thing is, if your manager's in your retro, the manager should be there as a servant leader for the team and should be saying, hey, I hear that problem, and you know what? I can help you with that. And so I'm going to take that one off out of your problem backlog, and I'm going to go try to get a solution for you. And that's what they should be there for. So I actually think it's good that your manager's in the retro, but I would ask you, are they doing kind of what I'm describing, which is the role they should be playing?
I would say it's probably more administering out tasks to other people. I don't want to say that and be 100% and be like off on one minor detail, but I would say in general, it's more facilitating to other people. But yeah, no, I mean, that's just a tough conversation to have,
so
right? Like if you walk up to your manager and say, you need to start doing more work, right? Like that's a tough conversation to have.
Well, no, but it's the manager should be there to serve the team more, as we've talked, and now we need John here because I had to talk about this today with some folks. I said, guys, we just drew the team on the wall. There's developers and there's some quality advocates or testers. People like to give them different names. They all work together. There's this product owner role that maybe has a few people working for it. There's this like coach or scrum master, and maybe there's like a UX person. And guess what? That's it.
You didn't draw a tall, thin guy with big arms sticking out over being a shit umbrella?
Well, no. And then where's the manager? Well, the manager's work has been really absorbed into those roles. And so the manager could work with the team, but the manager needs to work in accordance with how those roles were designed. And at that point, they're serving the team and they're enabling the team to move forward at its own devices, and they're removing impediments. That's what they do. And instead, the system, be it Scrum, Kanban, whatever, those are systems that allow teams to self-manage and ultimately generate data or metrics about what's going on, so the team can self-manage and the business could have some risk assurances that things are going well. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great, right? But as a fairly outspoken grunt on the ground, that's a tough, like, starting that conversation is often difficult. So
let me ask you this. Why is that conversation tough for you?
I would say probably I feel very comfortable, like, having a conversation with people on the team and saying, hey, this is something that I see I've been doing wrong, and I'm changing it this way, right? It's kind of a way to help steer the team in a direction. I like to do it from myself and say that I'm having this problem. Here's how I'm fixing it, and kind of use that as a proxy for other people. But when you're talking to someone who is ostensibly leading the team, I think that that's a more difficult way of phrasing it, right? When you kind of have to do a one-on-one conversation rather than a one-to-many conversation, it actually needs to have a point. It needs to kind of be more direct. That is often uncomfortable.
So one this is kind of crazy, but and it sounds scary and kind of underhanded. But can you get some of those other people that are also trying to work for the same things that you are to kind of either have this as a many to one conversation, or even many people bringing it up in a retrospective or a stand-up or something where management is there, and like you're planting the idea, like, maybe I'm going to suggest this question and then we'll do a vote or whatever. And you could do that secretly with cards or something. Maybe you can even go talk to whoever's going to facilitate your retrospective, especially now that it's not management, and tell them ahead of time that, hey, I want to bring this up, but I want everybody to vote on it, but we need to keep it secret so that people will hopefully vote honestly. And then you go talk to a few of the people that are on the team and try to, like, get them on board before you get there.
That seems like a good idea, especially kind of getting a coalition of the willing, so forth, built up beforehand. Seems like a good starting point.
Yeah, Craig actually has told me before, don't call something to a vote until you already know the answer.
That's a good one.
Okay, I'm going to put that on my things that I want to debate with Craig.
So you go around and you find out, like, what people want and talk to them about it individually, because sometimes it's often a lot harder to talk to people as a whole room full if you have a lot of naysayers.
Well, not only that, but each person's reasons as to why they behave in this, whatever the way is that is, they're fearful for their job, or they just don't like conflict, or everybody's reasons are going to be a little different, right? So It's really tough to try to have one solution for a team, especially that size. In some cases, you can have, for a small team, you can have one solution, and you really are only attacking one or two individuals, trying to affect them, and that can be fairly targeted, even though it's a team thing. But when you're talking 20 or 30 people, you can't really do that.
Well, and you can
attacking inertia at that point.
Well, and you have time to discuss their concerns, instead of in the big group when it's concern, and then you start to bring something up and someone else throws one up, then you never even finish that first one. And it would be really dumb to run for office without speaking to constituents first. So it's the same thing.
That doesn't mean they listen to constituents.
It doesn't. But you can at least prepare, like, your side of the story by talking to everybody. And even if you're just trying to find out what their concerns are, you're not trying to talk them into it. You're just trying to find out what their concerns are, so that when you do bring up the topic, you're prepared.
You know what the arguments are going to be.
Yep.
These are some great ideas. I should probably get back to helping with baking. That's going on next door. It smells really good. But
Man.
thanks for the help.
So Mark's saying he's had enough. Mark, you got a pick? Got a lightning pick for us?
Pick.
Oh, sure. Put him on the spot. Go ahead.
That's the theme of the night is put people on the spot and do things differently, which is what we're doing very well.
So do you have a metaphor for baking that you would apply to Agile?
I don't have one for baking. I do have a good pick for web development though, which is called IamTheFold.com. Oftentimes you get into awkward conversations about like, oh, we need to make sure this is above the fold on a website. And really that can mean anything from like 200 pixels down to like 2,400 pixels down, depending on the target you're looking at. So this is a good way of kickstarting that conversation with people for all the web devs out there. I know it's not particularly Agile related, but it was a good, it was an interesting thing for me to see, at least.
So IamTheFold.com?
IamTheFold.com.
That's interesting. I'll have to check that out. So, okay, we'll put that on our show notes for our listeners out there. And yes, I've been in many a fun debate about what is the screen resolution. So.
Exactly.
All right, well, go bake. I questioned: Are you baking thin vertical slices, or are you baking a wedding cake?
We're baking cupcakes actually, so a little bit of both.
Small modular units. Okay,
that's the idea.
Are you going to bake one first and then prototype it and get feedback before you bake a whole batch?
Luckily, we've already had plenty of experience with. We've kind of perfected the process to this point. I think our iteration is a long-term cycle. Our cycle times.
They're just making blogs. It's just
here's the deal.
From here.
Here's the deal. I will share. I've said this on the podcast before. Is that sometimes we need to. Those of us on here regularly, we need to have our wives come on because I've used the baking story to explain what Agile is to my wife because she cooks all the time. So I can only wonder what our wives think about what we do. So, well, hey Mark, thanks for joining us tonight. You could just drop off whatever you want to, and you'll hear the final output in a couple of days. And what are you gonna say, Amos?
I was gonna say the person baking in the other room that Mark's going to help is also a developer.
It's true. She actually has been on the IOES podcast, the sister podcast to this one. So
I didn't know we had a family here. Oh, okay. Are we a federation?
All right. I'll have to consider.
We'll see you, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming on.
Catch you next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Wow. Well, this has been fun here. This is interesting. So Mark's there. We give a show demonstrating the value that we bring to the Agile community. So
I just want to know if there are any listeners and followers that we don't personally know.
Well, if you look at the download stats, there's people downloading from all over the world that I don't think we know. So,
the only reason that we know, like, I can't even say his name anymore because we get in trouble every time we bring up Joe Bards.
Joe Bards.
But the reason I know Joe is because of the show.
Cool. Well, so what do we get? So
I think tonight was like Sigmund Freud's couch.
Well, so what we get? Let's do the rundown. What we get out of tonight? We started by talking about TDD, even though we said we weren't going to. We kind of we did a little exploratory probing on that, and the three of us would encourage you to think about that testing since it proves your codes works, and I'm going to share it probably makes your team work a little bit better. It promotes learning. It promotes emergent architecture. There's a lot more value than just seeing that the bar is green. So what else do we do?
It's not about
today?
the destination. It's about the journey.
Oh, dude, it's yoga. It's yoga. Whatever. Okay.
Is that a hairball?
Then somewhere along the line,
an Elvis impression to a cat impression. That's really good.
So then somewhere along the line, a stand-up comedian known as Lee showed up tonight and entertained us with Elvis and Winnie the Pooh and a coughing cat. And so with that as a backdrop, what are you doing? I know in our last episode we talked about team celebration, but what are you as a member of an Agile team doing to make your work environment fun?
I tell dad jokes.
Really? Is that because we used to work with someone who told your mom jokes all the time?
No, not you, not those. Like dad jokes, like
stupid puns.
What's black and white and red all over?
Oh, I thought you were talking about disciplined Agile development. I thought you were making jokes about that.
Skunk in a blender.
I tell safe jokes.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
That's not hard.
Leffy Wells.
Safe is fun to joke about. It is a joke.
If you saw Leffingwell in a bar, how would you start a conversation?
I don't know.
Okay. So we talked about fun. So I hope we inspire you to go out and have a little bit of fun at work the day after you hear this.
Are you not going to tell us the punchline to that joke?
No, I'm not.
That's horrible. He's like Lee.
I've learned.
The joke without a punchline.
And then the thing I think I liked, then I want you guys to add to this. I was just looking at my notes here. Agile, as we know, is about communication. It's hard, as we know. And it really is about, it's about working together, right? So out of the blue, we had Mark on here to have a conversation, which I hope has empowered him and given him some insights to help him be a leader and help him go out and improve the people he works with and the software he's building. And that is what Agile's about. And so sometimes we see people like, hoarding their secrets. This is my secret Agile thing that I'm not going to share with you. That doesn't help the community. So this is my request for people to share and be open and help the community grow and learn. Go, Amos.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I wanted to give a shout out here. Is that we had one other listener who tweeted us a topic after we had already had Mark come on. It's Ryan Ripley, and I suggested that he come on in the future. So hopefully we'll be able to get Ryan Ripley on in the future. And he wants to talk about the business side of Agile and why management agrees to do it. And are their lofty expectations reasonable to us?
Ryan, I love you. We should share stories. So,
do you know Ryan?
No, I don't. I don't think I know Ryan.
He is the Agile Answer Man. AgileAnswerMan.com.
Oh yeah, okay. I know of Ryan. So I bet he could answer my Leffingwell joke more so than you can.
Probably.
So, what'd you get out of this, Lee? What were your takeaways? Did we achieve anything here tonight, or did we just blow up a bunch of bits on the internet?
I think we contributed to the massive amount of video and audio being uploaded on a daily basis.
Yay!
That's good. People that sell storage solutions can benefit from us. How about that?
There you go.
We need more storage in the cloud. Okay, great. Amos, what'd you get out of this? Anything? You didn't have to do any. It was a regular day in the Australians. You didn't have to do any planning. He just showed up, and it all got done perfectly.
Of course it is. I'm here. It's perfect. That's what I learned. Amos shows up. Shit's perfect.
Wonderful.
No, I actually got a little bit of feedback about your Agile Buffet game that I'm really excited about. I heard a little more about the Agile Open Space Conference that's going to be going on, and hopefully I can make it too. And I really think that I got a lot out of the conversation that we had with Mark there on even how I can move forward and how I can help push on teams that are experiencing that same kind of, hey, management's so involved and everybody's scared to talk.
Okay, well, I guess we all got, if we did a what they call a ROTI, a return on time invested, I'd hope we'd all give it a thumbs up. At least I think the three of us would. Amos gave it 2.
I smiled, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, that was, we need to ISO that picture because that was scary looking what you just did. But I hope that if you're listening to us out there in podcast land, that you'd give us a thumbs up too. And of course, there's this great thing called Twitter you can. So with that, guess what? It's time for everybody's favorite part of this Agile Life. Let's have our picks.
Hottest picks.
This week's hottest picks.
I think Lee should go first.
And because Amos is in charge, I think we should do that.
Sure.
I said I think. I was voting.
Okay. Well, I will vote by talking. So I have 2 picks today. I started out with, this is kind of an old one from 2014, a lot of these, but there's a web page called Is TDD Dead? On Martin Fowler's site. It's basically just a series of conversations between Kent Beck, David Heinenmeyer, Heinenmeyer Hansen. Sorry.
DHH. Just call him
DHH.
Oh, no.
You.
He's going to want to fight with Lee on Twitter because he mispronounced his name.
Oh, sorry. And Martin, of course, on the topic of TDD. So I thought it had some really cool stuff. It's, like I said, a little bit old. So for those of you, a lot of you will probably have already known about it. And then when Amos mentioned the dad jokes, it reminded me of this great little bit that recently was put out by College Humor. If you guys aren't familiar with those guys, you can just Google them on and find their YouTube stuff. But they have the Ultimate Dad Joke Duel, which is a little skit thing that they do. They do just little skits like Saturday Night Live. So that's a great little funny skit.
Okay, I'll go next. I have two this week, and of course, I got a shout out for everyone at Agile Denver. Mile High Agile was great. I know we cheated because we recorded our last episode before the event, and wow, they do a great event in Denver. So if you haven't checked that out, it's huge too. It's like 1,000 people almost, and it's to the credit of how they set it up in the venue. They made it look bigger than it really is. They staged it real well, so which I thought was cool. Anyways, so two real picks for you. Gil Braza, just in the spirit of changing things up, just put out a kind of a new thing called Your Daily Stand-Up Revitalizer. It's a one-pager with some ideas to facilitate, to improve how you facilitate your stand-up to make it more effective and maybe kind of like we did tonight, throw a twist in it. So we'll give you a link that you got to go out and Gil asks for your email address. He sends it to you so you can download it. So we'll put that link to go and sign up in the show notes. And of course, the other one that we've already plugged 8,000 times tonight, but we're going to plug it one more time, is the wonderful St. Louis Agile Open Space, www.stlagileopenspace.com, on Friday, April 17th at Washington University in St. Louis. And we're obviously going to see if anyone wants to do the Agile Buffet game. We're going to talk about a few other community things that I know I have. A bunch of the people that have registered have told me they already have ideas, so I think it's going to be an idea fest. So if you're in St. Louis or beyond, want to come check it out, please join us. Check it out, register online, and hopefully we'll see you on the 17th at Washington University.
Woo!
Hey,
and now to keep the snowball rolling, I'll just jump right in, if that's okay. Or do you want to talk some more?
I was going to say, why don't you refresh us on what Mark's pick was, just since it happened, so we don't lose it.
Mark Ketterberg picked IamTheFold.com, which I've already brought up. It looks pretty interesting. I can't wait to read it. When I first brought it up, I thought it was broken. It's not broken whenever you see it, just so you know. So now following Mark's, I will run to mine. In general, this is just a recent experience, and I probably picked this before, but just user groups. User groups in general are great. It's a great place to go learn, a great place to get support. My current experience is that I run the St. Louis Ruby group, and the group, we have a meeting coming up this Monday right after this podcast releases, and our regular venue is no longer going to be an option because they're moving, and so I had to get a new venue. And so I sent a message out to everybody in the user group, and I got 86 emails today telling me where other places that we can have it. And that was just amazing. Like, I have so many emails that I don't even know where the heck we're going to have it, because I don't have enough time to go through all of them. But that was just awesome. And then my next one is I don't remember how I got to this website. I think I just saw its name somewhere. Letitcrash.com. It is for I think it's called Akka. It's I don't even know what Akka really is. I haven't looked at it. Here's why I want this as my pick is I went to the website, and their design, I just really loved their design. And you know, when I always talk about my website being ugly, this is really what I was going for. It's not really ugly. It's beautiful. But it's just kind of plain and straightforward. And I thought it was really awesome.
It kind of reminds me of Fallout, the game.
Yes. Yes, it does. I never thought about that till after you said it, but I thought it was. Do you think it looks good too? Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me.
And with that, that's all we have time for today. So as we always say, Agile's all about learning. Agile's hard, so you got to learn how to do it, and you got to try some experiments, and so try some new things. And I hope we've inspired you tonight to maybe try a few new things. And most importantly, we'd love to hear what you think about it, because really your feedback helps us improve what we do here at This Agile Life. So follow us on Twitter at This Agile Life, or go check us out on the web at www.thisagilelife.com. And of course, best of all, if you like what you hear, let us know about it, but also tell a few friends and help us grow the community. And as Mr. Sextra always says, keep living this Agile life.
This Agile Life is brought to you by a community of Agile developers and coaches aspiring to spread the word about this groundbreaking approach to software development. Join us at thisagilelife.com/community.